Madagascar is often celebrated for its unique biodiversity and cultural richness, now finds itself at the center of a political storm. In the capital, Antananarivo, the streets echo with chants, anger, and the restless energy of youth who feel betrayed by a state that has failed to provide even the most basic of necessities, water and electricity. The protests began as murmurs, frustrated conversations in neighborhoods where taps had long run dry and where rolling blackouts had become a cruel routine. But those murmurs grew into marches, and the marches into clashes. When young people, many of them students and unemployed graduates, took to the streets, they carried not only placards, but also the weight of generations who had endured broken promises. The demonstrations turned deadly. Security forces, tasked with maintaining order, responded with tear gas and live ammunition. The images of bloodied youths, of mothers crying over fallen sons, spread rapidly across social media, igniting outrage far beyond Madagascar's borders. Faced with mounting unrest, President Andry Rajoelina made a dramatic move. He dissolved his government. It was a gesture meant to signal accountability, to show that he was listening. Yet for many, it felt like too little, too late. Alongside the dissolution came a nationwide curfew, a blunt instrument to silence the streets rather than address the root causes of discontent. The roots of the crisis. Madagascar's crisis is not born overnight. The island has long struggled with fragile infrastructure, weak governance, and the heavy burden of poverty. Despite its natural wealth, vanilla, minerals, and fertile lands, the benefits rarely reach the majority. Water shortages are not merely the result of droughts. They are symptoms of decades of underinvestment in public utilities. Power cuts are not just technical failures. They are the scars of corruption, mismanagement, and a lack of political will. For the youth, who make up the majority of Madagascar's population, these failures are personal. They mean studying by candlelight, queuing for hours at communal taps, and watching opportunities slip away. In a country where unemployment is high and wages are low. The inability of the state to provide basic services feels like a betrayal of the social contract. Fire. Youth as a political force. The protests in Madagascar are part of a wider continental pattern. Across Africa, young people are increasingly refusing to remain silent. From Nigeria's End SARS movement to Sudan's revolution, youth-led mobilizations are reshaping the political landscape. In Madagascar, the symbolism is powerful. The youth are not only demanding water and electricity, they are demanding dignity. They are saying that governance must mean more than speeches and ceremonies. It must mean tangible improvements in daily life. Their anger is not anarchic. It is structured, organized, and deeply political. Student unions, neighborhood committees, and informal networks have coordinated marches and sit-ins. Social media has amplified their voices, turning local grievances into national debates. The government's gamble. By dissolving his government, President Rajoelina has attempted to buy time. The move allows him to reshuffle ministers, to present a new cabinet as a symbol of renewal. But the curfew tells another story, one of fear, of a state that sees its own citizens as threats rather than partners. The gamble is risky. If the new government fails to deliver quick improvements, the protests may return with even greater force. And if the curfew is enforced with brutality, it may deepen the rift between the state and its youth. Historical echoes. Madagascar's history is marked by cycles of hope and disillusionment. Since independence in 1960, the country has experienced repeated political crises, coups, and contested elections. Each cycle has been accompanied by promises of reform, followed by disappointment. Rajoelina himself rose to power in 2009 through a youth-driven movement that toppled then-President Rajoelina. Back then, he was seen as a fresh face, a symbol of generational change. Today, many of those same youths, or their younger siblings, see him as part of the problem. The irony is sharp. The man who once rode the wave of youth anger now finds himself drowning in it. Regional and continental implications. The crisis in Madagascar is not isolated. Across Africa, governments are learning that service delivery is as politically explosive as constitutional debates or election disputes. When the lights go out, when the taps run dry, when hospitals lack medicine, people take to the streets. For regional bodies like the African Union and SADC, Madagascar's unrest is a warning. Stability cannot be built on repression alone. It requires investment in infrastructure, transparency in governance, and genuine dialogue with citizens. Myth and metaphor. Africa crises are often framed as battles between elemental forces. In Madagascar today, it is the battle of water and fire. Water, withheld from the people, becomes a symbol of life denied. Fire, in the form of protests and burning barricades, becomes the people's answer. The youth are cast as modern-day heroes, rising not with swords or spears, but with chants, smartphones, and unyielding courage. The government, meanwhile, is portrayed as a faltering king, struggling to hold together a crumbling palace. This mythic framing is not mere poetry. It is a way of understanding the depth of the crisis. For when basic elements like water and fire dominate the political stage, it means the very foundations of society are at stake. Timeline of key events. September. Rolling blackouts and water shortages intensify across major cities. Late September. Youth-led protests erupt. Clashes with security forces turn deadly. October 1st. President Rajoelina dissolves the government. October 2nd. Nationwide curfew imposed to contain unrest. What comes next? The future of Madagascar hangs in the balance. Several scenarios are possible. Renewal. A new government, responsive to the people's needs, invests in infrastructure and restores trust. Repression. The curfew hardens into authoritarian control, silencing dissent but deepening resentment. Revolution. If frustrations continue to mount, the youth may push for more radical change, potentially destabilizing the entire political order. What is certain is that the youth will not return quietly to the shadows. They have tasted their collective power, and they will not forget it. Madagascar today is a nation at a crossroads. Its youth are demanding not just water and light, but justice and dignity. Its leaders are scrambling to respond, caught between the need for reform and the instinct for control. The story unfolding is not only about one island nation. It is about the future of governance in Africa. It is about whether leaders will recognize that the true measure of power is not in palaces or parades, but in the ability to deliver for the people. And so, as the curfew descends and the streets fall silent, the question lingers. Will Madagascar's leaders hear the cries of its youth, or will the silence be broken once more by the roar of protest?